Having a good Thursday. Going to be talking really briefly. It's going to be a quick show about this little 3-game slate we've got with all the games starting at 5. So there will be no, or 8 Eastern for many of you. There will be no slate swapping. This is just going to be a straight up slate. And at first glance, as you can see, I sorted by value. One thing that's interesting is we don't have any yet. We could see Levine out again. It's unlikely they sat him on the front end and then play him on the back end, but it's possible. Obviously Clarkson, matters a little bit, but I'm sort of leaning towards him being more expected to play. Markkanen a big piece. There's a lot out there that we're waiting on. Giannis obviously being the biggest one, but we'll see. Anyway, as of right now, I'll be live later. I'll talk a little bit about NBA and NFL around 6 or 6:30. I believe we're going to do it at 6, so we can cover both, and it'll be a little bit early tonight. But hey, it is what it is tonight, and I did not have a great night last night. I feel like I got a lot of pieces right and just some big ones wrong. But hey, it's hard to win tournaments with 100,000 people in it. And that's all I was playing last night. So it is what it is. Hopefully you guys fared a little bit better. Anyway, let's get into it. We'll go game by game real quick and just talk each side of everything. Portland getting low ownership here in a good matchup. I think this is a spot where you could try and get over the field. If you're multi-entering, I would suggest getting over the field. It's kind of a weird, just a weird situation. I don't really know. I don't really have a strong take of who I'm leaning towards. But right now, I'd lean Simons and Ayton as my favorites. I kind of think Scoot is a little bit. There's enough upside there at 5,500, but it's going to depend on Shaedon Sharpe playing. That's another interesting one. So while they're going to get mostly ignored, I actually like the idea of trying to get overweight a little bit of the Portland side of things. On the San Antonio side, I'm in for the Wembanyama chalk. It's a good matchup. Again, he struggled last night. The team struggled. I will go right back to him tonight. He's going to be really high owned. Nothing special there. Chris Paul's been better than maybe most people realize he still could be, but a back-to-back with a price increase, even though it's pretty appropriate to what he's been doing, and high ownership, I'm more inclined to fade that. Harrison Barnes is going to show up as a value play just because of how little value there is, as will Stephon Castle. And I'm totally fine with it. I actually lean a little bit more towards Castle than Barnes here, but I'm okay with either as the value pieces. And then you've got Champagnie and Keldon Johnson. My lean would be Keldon Johnson. And Blake Wesley is 3K and going to get some minutes most likely. So even with the low projection, just because if we do lack value, which again, I'm guessing we're going to get some news today that's going to open up a little bit of value. I think it's an interesting way to go to maybe, maybe take a shot on either Wesley or Branham. Branham is a better play with more upside, but Wesley is just minimum cost. And again, I think by the end of the day, we won't be thinking as much about those plays as we will some others, depending on what injury news we get. Let me just clear this out. All right, Utah at Milwaukee. This is a game that you would think would have a 20-point spread if it was, I don't know, even last year. I almost said 2 years ago, but last year. And it's only 10 because the Bucks have been bad. And that's assuming that Giannis does play, at least as of right now. That's where we're at. So going down the list here, Cody Williams, another one of those fringe value plays that I think you could add to your mix if we don't get any news, but I'm just guessing we do. If Markkanen's out, we know the drill. George, especially Clarkson, assuming that he plays. I would give a boost to Kessler, and I actually like Kessler a little bit here, maybe more than the field does. I would try to get at least double the field on Kessler, even if everybody plays. I just think I like taking a shot on a guy with that much upside, and I think Colin Sexton obviously would come into play more if Markkanen's out. But if you wanted to take a stab, even with Markkanen, I don't think that's the worst thing in the world. We saw John Collins explode the other night. That's another one that again sort of hinges a little bit on Markkanen's health. But, he put up 55 the other night in Chicago. Now, yeah, it's Chicago, but it's not like Milwaukee's been any world beaters defensively. So a lot to do here, but really we need to know about these two question marks before we can really make any sort of commitment to this game at all. Milwaukee, this is where you're going to have high ownership whether or not Giannis plays, because you do have the value of guys like Prince. Lillard obviously has a ceiling and it's just a way to get different. There aren't that many big plays to make. But if you want to get the spend ups of Wembanyama and Giannis, if Giannis plays for what it's worth, I like Giannis as every bit as much as I do Wembanyama, and maybe more. Maybe that's a better one. But either way, obviously they're both going to look like good plays. Gary Trent with this kind of ownership in general, I would try to avoid. The problem is we don't have value on this slate, as I mentioned. I mean, but for what it's worth, Gary Trent has put up 13, 6, and 7.5, and one of those games had no Giannis. So I am not going to be the one to eat the Gary Trent shock, most likely. If things, settle out a little bit later and the ownership comes down, I'm totally open to playing him. But as of right now, I'm not looking there. I think a contrarian play, whether if Giannis does play, would be Bobby Portis, as well as Connaughton, who played well the other day, just as another low-end option. But as of right now, very hard to make these assumptions with these Q tags out there, because as of right now, it looks like there's no value. If we get some serious value, it's going to be jam them in on the Giannis and Wemby front, and then people are going to figure out what to do elsewhere. Minnesota side of the ball. Look, this is an incredible matchup. It's a pace-up spot. I love Edwards for what it's worth tonight. I think that he's, you get a little discount off of Wembanyama and off of Giannis, and I think he's a tremendous play. I would probably, if the slate locked right now, have him in most of my lineup just because that lack of value we need to spend down in the upper tier. So I really like Edwards tonight. I also do like Randall and Gobert. I really like everybody. I think you want to be heavy on the Bulls side. And I think that's why you're seeing this ownership. But I actually have it Edwards, Randall, DiVincenzo, Gobert in that order. I really like DiVincenzo's a spend down, especially until any value opens up. Naz Reid, good, larger field play, but actually a totally reasonable play in all formats against this fast-paced Bulls team. So I really think that's the way to. And there's a reason why Minnesota's looking like they're going to be so highly owned. This is a team you want to be overweight on for sure, and it might be hard to be overweight based on things right now. But we're talking about a slate that lasts so long with so many injuries, and none of them as big as Zach LaVine playing or not. If Zach LaVine plays, I think he's a tremendous play. If he's not, we go right back to Dosunmu. They did raise his price because of the last couple games. I still would go right back there. I know he was disappointing last night, as were the Bulls in general, but I would go right back to Dosunmu. I would include in my mix. Look, we have to talk about Buzelis. I mean, I understand it was a blowout, but he was playing early in that game. If LaVine is out, of course. But Buzelis, it was Horton Tucker the game before, and it was Buzelis last time out. He put up 31 in 22 minutes. Now, I'm not saying he's going to do that every time, but shoot 3 or 4 from three-point range. But I'm open to taking a shot on a 3K guy who, coming off his best performance yet, and I think that's a worthwhile endeavor. So actually, that's an interesting contrarian spend down, even if LaVine plays. If LaVine doesn't, I'm curious to see what the projections will say. But I do like it. You also have Jalen Smith. I think it's interesting on a back-to-back maybe to take a shot with Jalen Smith because Vucevic historically hasn't been as good on back-to-backs. Maybe that's a reasonable other value you could take, getting a little bit of ownership, but I do like it. And we'll be talking about a bunch of these guys if LaVine is out. We just don't know yet. So I wanted to do a real quick early first look. Not a whole lot to go over yet. As we said, we're waiting for huge pieces of information. You can see all the Q tags on the slate, and they're genuine Qs in most cases. So I think we have to wait and see, and we'll hopefully have more information by later, or at least some sort of suspicion of what we think people are going to be doing. And we'll go over that then. I'll release whatever my exposures are tonight for anything that I play in the premium Discord, so you can know what to fade. Just kidding around. Anyway, I appreciate you guys all being here. Give us a like on the way out, and we will see you guys at 6 Eastern time, I believe. It might be 6:30. We'll post it on our site. We'll post it on YouTube. So it's going to be one or the other, but I'm pretty sure we're looking at 6 as of right now. All right, guys. Good luck to everybody. Go Team True DFS. I got my True DFS shirt